Get educated, get the degree, get the nice job, get the nice car, nice apartments, live a very lovely life, go on vacations with your friend, meet a guy, speak to guys, and guys literally stay away from you. Not because you're some high-end thing that they can't handle and they're intimidated. No, it's because he sat down with you at a date and realized, oh, this person's a douchebag. I actually can't like stand this person. And then that's it. And so girls will hear that and then argue, no, it's because I set a high standard. No, guy probably met your standards. That's why he was confident enough to even pop up at the date. But the moment he sat down and had a conversation with you, he realized, yeah, you're a douchebag and you're not worth the effort.
One of the topics that I wanted us to discuss was the reoccurring sort of pattern that you see and I see sometimes. I haven't personally dealt with it much, but I've heard you speaking about people coming into your investment sphere, women particularly, and actually laying out their life issues on you. And most of the time when this happens, it's usually a woman who is a career woman. She has everything on paper, the degree, the nice job, the corporate sort of girly vibe, strong black independent woman, but she's like, Omega, I'm lonely. I don't have a relationship. Even the relationship that I was actually trying to build actually has fizzled. Now I'm 38, 39, no kids, no marriage, and I have this dream that I was sold, which actually makes me feel even more empty. And then you get the trap that that I want us to speak about today, which is that young women sold the dream of get your degree, get a good career, get yourself the house, the money, travel, live your best life in your 20s. And then all of a sudden they realize that, yes, that was something to get, but it wasn't the be all end all, because now I'm 35 and I want to settle down, but there's nobody actually that's willing to commit to me because I have now all of these tendencies. I have this independent woman streak going in my head. I can't be told things, and like certain things as a man you have to have in order for me to even think of you as a potential suitor, which most men in our day and age don't really live up to that. Where are we falling off in terms of getting into the trap? Because this is a good thing. Everybody, I would say this is something good to advocate to young women, to get your own thing, do your own life, be busy about your life. But when do we miss the mark, or like go overboard in terms of crossing that line of having that view and also balancing it out with like, okay, you're going to want at some stage to have a husband, you're going to want to have kids, you're going to want to settle down. Like, who are you at that stage if you've been busy filling your life with just career climbing, ladder, whatever combativeness that comes with being in corporate? Because there's a lot of combativeness that comes with being in corporate and working your way up corporate. There's a certain cutthroat attitude that you have to have as a person, and a strategy that you have to work within yourself to actually be that person and not be in that quote unquote feminine energy that is compassion and the lovey and the whatever, because you are trying to get your money. Yeah.
There's like a whole host of reasons why different people end up in that circumstance, but I think the principle that everybody ends up in that situation, by the way, there is a male version of it, but we'll maybe save that for later, is people don't know the word and. They only know the word or. Someone will say career or marriage. No, both. It's fine. It's cool. You can do it. The question is, how do you do it? So when people say career or marriage, or money or girlfriend, or success or relationship, it's because they don't know how to do both. They don't know the how. How does the both happen? Because the both can happen. In fact, you should do both because they can feed into each other in a very positive way if you know how to do it. So that's where the challenge is. And I get it, like from just a very simple perspective of preventing negative situations from happening in your life. If I had a daughter who's like maybe like turning 19 and I'm taking her to university, one of the things that I will do is tell her, it's like, stay away from boys. Now, me being me, I wouldn't necessarily say that way, but I know as a general parent, that's what I would do. The reason I do that is very simple. Boys can be extremely destructive to your life. Boys can destroy your life. And not even intentionally, just through like the desires that boys also have at that age. So boys want to do certain things, and then boom, you fall pregnant, now you're in a lot of trouble. So parents will say things like that, intending with good intentions, stay away from boys. What they don't give is the breakdown of, hey, I'm saying stay away from these type of boys, and then give a whole long list of breakdowns of what character to stay away from, what activities to stay away from that relates to boys. Because obviously, staying away from boys is not necessarily practical, but it's a certain type of boy you definitely want your daughter to stay away from.
Yeah.
Now, that message, out of many other messages, can feed into the next thing of forget relationships, focus on career. And so you're 24-year-old, you just graduated, and now you start focusing on your career, which is a good thing. That is a good thing to do. Please focus on your career. But focusing on your career doesn't take away from you doing other things. There's this very weird mentality that a lot of people have, which is they have when we say focus, it's at the exclusion of every other part of your life. Like as a human being, you wear different hats on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. There's no such thing as if you're focusing on your career or your studies, because in university, that's what you come across. People say, I'm focusing on my studies and I can't have a relationship. You're not studying 12 hours a day. Don't lie. I know why people do that, though, because there's a good reason. The good reason is this. Most people lack self-control. So if you present and to them, they can lose themselves in the and.
Yeah.
So someone will say, I'm studying and I have a boyfriend. They lose themselves in their boyfriend, in the relationship. All of a sudden, they're not making time to study. They're not making time to do other things that they have to do. That lack of self-control is what makes you say life is a game of or, when actually life is a game of and. Especially if you know how to allocate time to things and you're self-disciplined. Now, coming back to the question of women and ending up age 38, 39, you're not married, you don't have kids, you haven't been able to really build good, positive relationships in your life. Yes, you're financially successful, you've got a great career, but socially, when it comes just to that relationship space, your life looks like something lacking. And you want something, So obviously we have to separate. There's a difference between someone who doesn't want it and someone who wants it. So in this case, we're speaking about a person who does want it. The error the person would have made is they just thought life was a game of or. They thought that focusing on my career meant that I couldn't have a relationship, but you actually could have. You just had to find time and a way to set your life in such a way that you can still do the relationship, and you can still do the career, and you can still make money, and you can still do every other thing that you want. So the failure is in knowing that life is a game of and not or.
Well, let's go back before we get to the remedies in terms of like the traps of how someone at this age is still dealing with that and has got into the trap of just being at a place where, okay, they have to now just live with the fact and be okay with the fact and accept that they might not get married and that's what they had wanted early on and envisioned, and not have that bitterness with them. And I think one of the traps that has been a challenging one to maneuver is that hyper independence that we've built up within ourselves from an early ages. I would speak for myself as a woman, like that I had to be hyper independent so that my parents who used to disappoint me, I don't have to now go back and still ask for things from them because they disappointed me with not getting me the things that I needed when I was younger. So somewhere in myself, I vowed to myself, I'm gonna be that person who has my own back. I'm gonna be the person who does my own things, takes care of my own shit, does the financial things that need to be done, and depending specifically on a man. Now, when I look back in who my father has been in my life, I was like, that's not safe.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of trauma there just because of parenting and the father that I had. And I was like, nah, these people are shaky, so I'm going to depend on myself. With that being something that I held on as a strong sort of identity, that's who I'm choosing to be. I now had that same lens with the partner that I have or the relationships that I build with men. It's like, yeah, he's here, but don't fully be there. Because he might drop you at any time. You've seen it plenty of times growing up. So I'm always going to be in the relationship with one foot somewhere on the outside, trying to just be stable enough for myself so that I don't need you fully. Because if I need you fully, then I'm vulnerable. And you know my vulnerability.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then you know my weakness. And if you know my weakness, you know how to hurt me.
You can be independent. You can do things for yourself. You can have the ability to do things for yourself. There's no such thing that says just because you can do things for yourself, you can't let other people do things for you. There's no such thing. But the idea that I'm an independent woman, so I'm not going to let a man do anything for me because he's going to control my life. Who said it has to be that way? It doesn't. Like, you could be an independent woman, have the ability to do things for yourself. But if a guy comes into your life and says, dude, I've got XYZ and I'm going to take care of this, chill, we're going to enjoy life. Nothing says you shouldn't interact in that relationship if those are the terms the guy says he wants in the relationship. Nothing says you now have to give away your ability just because this person also has an ability and they're willing to spend their abilities on you. It's not a game of or, it's literally a game of and. Now, this is where I've picked up, personally, in my opinion, this is where I picked up the challenge is. We struggle to take off certain hats in the right context. So someone will be a CEO at work, and then they come home and want to be a CEO too. Doesn't work. When I go home to my mom's place, I'm a child.
Yeah.
I don't wear the pants in that house. I don't come there pointing people, telling them what to do, or saying this is how things should happen here at home. That's my mom's home. Same thing with how you behave in a certain environment. You could be the CEO at work, but when you come back home, that's my man, and I trust his leadership capabilities. You don't have to battle, you don't have to have a power struggle with him. It's not the context for that. Save the power struggle for work stuff. You and the CFO vying to become head. That's for work stuff. But at home, it's a very clear mandate. Guy is the leader because that's what I've agreed to. Otherwise, don't be in that home then. It's all about the context. And so with hyper independent, strong black women, the struggle becomes is they don't know how to read the context that they're in. You are at home, you're a child. You are in a man's house, you're a spouse, and guy's the leader. You're at work, you're a leader there. Well done. But these things don't translate to you leading in one area and another area.
There's also the very strong sort of movement in the air of decentering men and all of those sort of westernized ideas of like, okay, we've put these people on pedestal. And I get the idea. I do kind of get where the good sort of heart of this ideology and agenda comes from of decentering men. If we look back at what women have been in the past, there's a lot of emphasis on just being a good mother and a good wife and a good sort of household maker that's been there, which is actually an evolutionary thing of just like, yeah, that's what society needs. And that's what we have actually done in order to survive being here on earth and to multiply to the numbers that we have as populations in terms of humanity. However, decentering men and having that sense of, I don't need a man. I think we as women have really got in our heads that idea that having a man is a choice. Meanwhile, there's certain beliefs that we still hold about love and about being alive and having a good life experience that actually require that being partnered with a man. So we have these two ideas of they're not the priority and they're not the center. And also the human innate need and the nature that is being woman that needs a man there. And those two are fighting within themselves. Hence this sort of, I would call it some sort of dichotomy that's happening of, yes, I'm trying to go with what society says is now the in thing of I don't need a man. But deep down, when I sit alone, when I sit in the quiet of the night, I know there's a longing inside of me, and I'm too ashamed. I'm too guilty, or too feeling like I'm gonna be ostracized by the other people in the group of decenter men if I actually say the truth, which is I actually want a man. I need one. I want a family. I want to be maybe a household manager and not be challenged by the challenges of corporate. Because who wants that at the end of the day? I had to look at myself as well in terms of just my own corporate career when I had one. So that was not a thing that was going to be sustainable for me if I look at it honestly and I look at where I was there and the sort of things that I was doing to myself, the burnout, the jumping through hoops to be seen and not being seen, and just like the constant living on urge just to please people who actually didn't recognize my worth. I didn't want to be in that cycle. And obviously, with me having been retrenched, that came in as a well-received sort of break to actually see that was not the life that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
So there is a pressure with women that has them say, oh, yes, we believe men are not the priority. We can get our own. We don't need them. They can be there, but they're not the center of my life. I have my own identity, which is all good and well. But also that admitting and that humbling ourselves enough as a woman, like a whole entirety of being woman, to say, yes, we need men. Men are a vital part of the identity of being woman, and we work together in order to move on forward to whatever it is that we need to do in this world and be in this world while ironing out whatever the challenges are that we have amongst each other.
Yeah.
But there's this combativeness that actually is being fueled from all angles to say, no, just cut them out completely.
Yeah. Um, to respond to that, I'll start at a very, what I think is a very important thing that most people tend to not be aware of. Most people, what I've learned in conversation with them, and just from reading general statistics on these things, most people don't really know history, especially the history of humanity. One of the things that people tend to not be aware of is this. I'll use just one stat. Prior to the tractor, between 70 and 90% of humanity worked on a farm prior to the tractor. There's a lovely verse in Genesis that speaks about working the earth in order to get something from it. That has been human history for a very long time. We've had to work the earth. So before the tractor, most people worked on a farm. As tractors and machinery got involved in agriculture, and why agriculture? It's because we need to feed ourselves, and that's why we worked on it so hard. As machinery got involved in agriculture, one of the things that happened was we were able to be free to do other jobs. But even those other jobs still required physical labor. If you weren't working on a farm, you were out at sea fishing, not with a nice boat, with a very dangerous wooden boat that could sink and kill you. Okay? If you were not there, you were in the docks working as a merchant at a harbor or selling something or fixing something because ships need fixing, boats need fixing. Work was always manual labor. It is a phenomena of the late 70s for work to really move out of manual labor and to more intellectual pursuits. Now, there's always been jobs that are intellectual pursuits. Those have always existed, but they're always in the minority of work that is available. Even till this day, most people who are middle class don't know that a significant portion of the world still does physical labor. Men are not just better suited for physical labor, but it's more convenient even for humanity for men to do physical labor. And by virtue of that, women find themselves placed in the home. Notice though, as technology happened and more jobs became available that were intellectual pursuits, women slowly entered the workforce. Now, I'm not going to go into changes in tax regulations, the invention of the pill and birth control. I'm not going to go into those because those do factor in. But a key thing is as jobs became less and less physically demanding, more and more women could suddenly do jobs. It is a natural progression for men to be decentered because work no longer relies only on men. It's a natural progression from an economics perspective. So men will go out of work. Men won't be the pillar of society economically because technology now allows us to leverage that we no longer need physical force to get the job done. Now we can use intellectual force to get the job done. So on economics perspective, it is natural for men to get decentered. Does that now mean that decentering men economically means we have to translate that to the social? Means we have to translate that to every other area of our life. Now, everything is intertwined. Economics is intertwined with social. So naturally, as men get decentered economically, they will get decentered socially because some men did use their economic power to dominate people socially. That is just a fact of life. So as women get economically liberated, yes, they'll start saying things like, I don't need a man. Because truth be told, you don't need a man for survival. So I don't blame women for saying, I don't need a man, because actually that is true. Women do not need men. Now, the human side of things, humans thrive on community. Humans love intimate connections. And that is where men and women definitely still need each other. Notice I didn't say women need men. I said men and women still need each other. I'm not even going to bring up procreation. That's a moot point. Just for our own comfort and existence, we need each other. We work very well together as a team. It's why our species have gotten this far. And I don't want to get into a lot of psychobiology, but the reason we are here as a society is because we've found a way to work together. Yes, there's been challenges, but we need each other. Men love intimacy as well, and not just physical. They love connecting. Women love connecting. Women, I understand, are still grasping their new economic status, so will throw tantrums through having a new economic status. At some point, I'm convinced that it will settle down. We'll all find a way to fit in economically, and we'll then wake up to the fact that, oh yeah, we need each other, you know.
Okay, on the solution front, where do we go from here then in the sense of, okay, we have people women that are like this, who are at their possible wits end and just like, okay, it's okay, I'll be
Yeah.
fine. I'll possibly have a boyfriend, but I will not get married. I'll possibly have nieces and nephews, but I'm not going to be a mother, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think the context of this video might not be for them, but for somebody who is slowly getting to that stage on their own, what would be the solution for them in order to not find themselves
Yeah.
at that stage by default and not because they chose to?
Obviously, with all good things in life, prevention is better than cure. So
Government
Yeah.
96.
prevention is better than cure. You have to prevent yourself from ending up in that situation. And the way that you simply do that is, yes, you work on your career, but you don't make it at the exclusion of your social development as a person and your emotional and psychological development.
And I like how what you're saying there, and I know you're going to finish that point, but I don't know if I can say, let me just say as women, let me just say that because this is an experience that I've had. We don't think that we can learn the social aspects of relating to each other and having relationships, especially romantic relationships. We have this tendency of, oh, the one. We leave that tendency aside of somebody will come that's God given, that's going to be everything that I need. We also don't have our own emotional sort of understanding of what does it mean to relate to somebody else in a relationship in a healthy manner. We don't know that, and we don't make proactive sort of stances and actions and take sort of actions to actually learn what that looks like. It's like everything's going to happen on its own somehow. I want to be happy in a relationship with kids, a house, and a husband who is well off, that I don't have to stress about finances. But how are you doing that? What actions am I doing in my everyday life? How do I relate to the potential people that I might meet that are like that in a manner where that I get that at the end? It's like we have all of these end goals with no sort of linking of these are the actions to that end goal of having a healthy relationship, an amazing love relationship, or having the wedding day and the marriage that is just like amazing.
Yeah.
It feels like everything is going to be like at the end of saying I do, happily ever after.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're not proactive about your development in different areas of life, eventually time does its job for you, and where time takes you is always a not very nice place. You see this with health. If you let go of your health, you end up at a place that you don't want to be. If you do this with your career, you end up in a place that you don't want to be. If you do this with relationships, you end up in a place that you don't want to be, either in a very bad relationship or in no relationship at all. So people have to learn to be proactive. This goes for men and women. There are men who are not very proactive and who will then sit and cry and whine all day long on the internet about women and about life and about finance and how life is not fair. You see these guys like all the time just complaining, whining, crying. And it's like, but bro, you're the one who didn't prevent yourself from being in that situation. Fine, you can blame your parents, blame the history of the country, blame the government, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're the one who got born and has to live that life. You have to live your life. And so you have to make plans for you. So the most important thing is to learn to be proactive. That would be one of the most important things to do. Now, in terms of solutions, it depends where you are. Obviously, are you before the situation or you're in the situation? If you're before the situation, prevention. You have to literally work on your career, yes, work on your finances, yes, but not at the exclusion of everything else that happens in a person's life.
So, but practically, what are you saying? Because, like, okay, if I'm hearing that, it's
schedule.
like, okay, I hear you, but like, if I were hearing you as the woman I was maybe 7, 8 years ago, I was like, okay, I do my career and stuff, and then I date a lot. What are you saying? What does that mean?
Strategy and schedule. It's very simple. Let's say you don't yet have a boyfriend. What do you then have to do? You have to have a strategy of how you're going to put yourself in positions where you're going to meet great guys. Okay, and then once you have a strategy, you have to schedule things to implement that strategy. You could go online, you could go on social media, though I just prefer people just go directly online. You could travel to certain places where certain types of guys are, and so you increase the probability of bumping into someone. But online is the first place you can start. Have a strategy for that. And then someone will say, well, but do I then go on a lot of dates? Do I date a lot? No, you have conversations with people. You could literally have conversations over the phone, video call, whatever, and then only schedule dates that seem like are going to be worth the effort of actually going through on that date. Either you're going to meet a great person, you might not click romantically, and you end up maybe being, I don't know, some sort of associates, or you meet a great person, you guys end up dating. But it's all about schedule. The struggle that people have is this. Some people literally believe that you can't schedule certain things in your life when you're focused on something else. Complete fallacy. That's not true. Like, it's completely not true. There's 24 hours in a day minus sleep. You got about 16 hours. You can make it work. Now, does that mean though there are periods in your life where you can't full max out focus on one thing? So here's what I want to emphasize. Say you're age 22. At that age, it's okay to not go on dates, not even meet friends, though I wouldn't recommend that, and not do anything else besides study and work hard to accomplish your academic pursuits and career pursuits. Why? Because time allows you to put in a lot of upfront focus on something. That way you can eventually schedule it appropriately at some point in the future. Okay, so time does allow that at that age. But once you get to 25, 26, 27, you should be slowly scheduling your social life and social development. If that's an ambition you have, that I want to have a family and I want to have a husband and I want us to work together, whatever, then you should be scheduling that pursuit. This goes for guys as well. You'd be surprised how many guys meet girls randomly and the girl ends up doing a small little thing and the guy gets sold and then ends up with the wrong chick. And he either hurts the chick or he finds himself getting hurt, one of the two. So it's all about scheduling and strategy. That's it. To prevent the problem. Now, let's say you're 37, 38, 39. You're single, you don't have kids, you've got a good job, great career, you've got your own place, so you have a mortgage, life is good, and now you're looking for a guy. First thing is to be aware of the situation that you're in from a man's perspective. And that's tough because it means you have to first realize that, holy crap, based on what a significant portion of men want, I'm no longer that much of an it thing anymore. You might be somebody that men still want, but you're no longer in the top range of what men want. That time has passed, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity anymore to get into a marriage, and a good one too. It just means you need to be more aware that going into the market, going into dating, you're no longer necessarily the ideal. And that's fine. Because now you're navigating people knowing that I might not be the ideal. So you're a woman, you're 38, you meet a guy. The guy has no kids. He seems to be doing very well financially. He's maybe good looking. He's or good looking or attractive, well put together. And he's out here on a date with you. And you can see this guy could probably date a 30-year-old or 29-year-old or 28-year-old. But here he is with me, a 38-year-old. Ask him, like, so what made you choose someone like my age to go on a date with? And then read that answer very carefully, because it's one of two things. There is a couple of options, but it's one of two things. Either he's here because he thinks you're easy pickings, because he's like 38, she's probably tired. This is going to be an easy one to just have a fling with. Or he's there because he's really serious. You have to figure out which of these is this guy falling into. The third one is he's not sure, which is fine, but it's going to be one of these two. He's serious or he's not serious, and you have to find out which one he falls into. If he is serious, find out why is he serious with you as a person who's not necessarily at the super prime anymore. And you might discover that he tells you, like, dude, I actually don't care about dating a 25-year-old or 26 or 30-year-old. I care about personality. I care about your experience as a person. I care about your maturity. I care about how you think. And you'd be like, oh, and he's like, you're good looking too, because you can be very much 37 and very good looking. And you'll be like, yeah, and you're good looking too. And you're like, okay, cool. This guy seems genuinely interested. But the reason I'm saying inquire what it is so you actually know where you stand with that person and if you should continue investing. Because if you stand in the wrong position with that person, walk away as quick as possible and find the people that are truly, genuinely interested in you. But really understand that the position that you're in is a tough one. And it's going to require you to have humility. It's going to require you to approach people with decency and respect. It's going to require you to understand that from their perspective, you're not an ideal anymore. You might say, I've got my own car, I've got my own house, I've got my own vacation money, I've got my own money, I've got my own assets. Guys don't care. If a guy is doing well himself, he's not expecting you to give him anything materially. Guys are not looking for materials from girls. Unless he's like a really low-class idiot, guys are not looking for that. Like, very few prim and proper guys have ever sat down at a date and said, so tell me about your balance sheet. I want to know about your accounting and your income. Guys don't care. There's a reason guys don't care. Besides the internal reasons for that guy, here's a very basic one. The day he brings you around his friends, they're not going to say to him, So her balance sheets is how, her accounting, her income is what. They're gonna say, bro, she looks nice. That's it. High five. That's all. That's all his friends are gonna say. Now, his close friends might say, what's up with her? And he'll say, oh no, she works very well, dude. Like she's a lawyer, she's doing pretty well. Like, she's a great chick. The reason the friend is asking that is so the guy doesn't end up in a bad situation where he's now handling a financial liability who drains him. But at the end of the day, guess what if the reverse happens? Guy rocks up with a girl, super lawyer, successful, top lawyer in the country. Okay? But she looks, he's not getting high five. And he knows he's not getting a high five. He might say, she's got an amazing personality. Bravo, you're a good man. I swear you are a better man than us. Guys care about looks, youthfulness. And youthfulness is not about age. It's more about you as a person.
Vitality.
Yeah, vitality. They care about your attitude. They care about your personality and how you respect and treat them. And then they care about how stimulating you are. Depending on the guy, he might care about slightly like how intelligent you are, how well you can hold down a conversation, how well you can come up with ideas. And then they care a lot about your looks as well. Those are things that guys care about. So if a guy's financially sorted,
it's not.
It's simple to be that way. Yeah, but yeah.
Together now. On my side, on the spirit, I'm going to focus on the spiritual side of the things that I think we as women don't focus on when it comes to trying to be more intentional when it comes to relationships and dating and actually moving into love relationship that have a course and a path leading to something serious. I think also it comes down to the energy with which we approach things. I think it's not necessarily the fact that most people have just like a focus on one thing, because let's just be frank, people do relationships even if they are in highly focused sort of I'm focusing on my academics. They do, but how they do them is from an energy of actually being combative for women. It's coming in from that energy of, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm my own person. I want to do my own things. They don't want to be accountable. They don't want to actually sit down and solve problems, but just feel a certain way and do things out there in that will impact the relationships that they are trying to cultivate to that level of marriage or whatever in a detrimental way. So I feel as if from an energy perspective that there is a lot of combative masculine energy that women are embracing in terms of how they conduct themselves in relationships, meaning that leads to relationships not working out. So now you're busy just running from pillar to post, from relationship to relationship. Meanwhile, you're not addressing the things within yourself of how you're conducting yourself in this relationship in a manner where you are not a pushover. When I'm not advocating for a woman to be pushovers, but to be of settled mind and of settled emotions enough to actually handle the challenges of relating to another person and having a romantic relationship with another person in a mature way, where you're not degrading each other, you're not being combative, you're not over argumentative and just wanting your way in everything and being ridiculous about things and wanting some sort of special treatment, even though you do not give that back to the person. So I think it's at the bottom and at the core of it, that also could play a really big role of coming to a solution of not falling into that trap by default. See within yourself, how are you as a woman cultivating that womanly wisdom of leading with compassion, leading from a place of being a sensitive person, leading the relationships that you have from a compassionate space and not from a place of entitlement, not from a place of I want, not from a place of demanding certain things happen because those are your standards, but working in a way that that relationship that you are nurturing or you want to hopefully have a serious commitment from is being nurtured every day. There's a lot of entitlement that we need to get over, and there's a lot of just like standards that are ridiculous that we've set around relationships that we have in our youthful ages that don't last us long in those relationships because they are just ridiculous demands that we need to actually mature from and have a mature feminine sort of approach to those relationships and not combative and just demanding things that actually are not realistic in the country and the economics and just like the day-to-day interactions that we have with the men in our lives.